Hey guys, what is going on? So I wanted to talk about dirty bulking, and I kind of want to make the case for it. And this is not to encourage people to dirty bulk, but I want to talk about my experience with dirty bulking and how that has transformed over the years and how this has improved my ability to eat more food and thus has improved my ability to be able to eat clean food. And that's really something that I kind of want to reiterate in this video, is that this is not the end plan. For you to start a dirty bulk is not committing to that lifestyle forever, but this is just reinforcing the eating habits that I think are going to be necessary for somebody who's going to be putting on a lot of size. So who is dirty bulking even for? And I see a lot of people where they start a dirty bulk and they get way too fat, way too easily, and they swear off it, and they have to lose all this weight, and they have a hard time losing the weight, and they're like, I'm never doing that again. And those people likely never needed to dirty bulk in the first place. And dirty bulking is more of a necessity than it is, oh, should I dirty bulk or should I not? Well, if the question is, should you dirty bulk? The answer should always be no, right? But if you are in a situation where you feel like you can't gain weight unless you dirty bulk, that is who, dirty bulking is actually for. People who struggle to gain weight, people who are extremely active, people who have fast metabolisms, people who don't have a very good appetite, just overall people who can't gain weight, just telling them to, they're probably not even eating a super clean diet as it is. So to tell them to replace their junk food with clean food and then eat even more food than they already were when they're already skinny and they're struggling to gain weight, I don't really think that that's the solution that they need. Okay, so I want to talk about my experience with dirty bulking, why I felt the need to do it. And for me, I think it's kind of opposite to what a lot of other people did. And a lot of people tend to, when they're early on in their lifting career and they're impatient, they start a dirty bulk, and they don't need to do that because they're getting the newbie gains and they can, eat in a much, lower calorie surplus, and they don't need to do all this crazy stuff to gain muscle. And they, dirty bulk anyway, and they take it way too far and they overestimate how much muscle they can gain, and then they just have a lot of fat. Okay. And so I think those people, shouldn't have been dirty bulking in the first place. My situation is different because I didn't start dirty bulking until years and years down the line. So I ate in a calorie surplus to build muscle over time, but I got to a point where I couldn't gain weight unless I dirty bulked. That was the period in my life that I was at. So I started dirty bulking not because I thought that was going to be the fastest route to gaining muscle. I started doing that because I knew that bulking was going to be necessary, and I couldn't bulk without eating increasingly, more junk food, which is definitely not a healthy thing, but that was the situation that I was in. And so for me at that time, I was about 220 pounds. So I was trying to get to like 230 pounds for the first time. And so for me at that time, I could not even get past 220, and I wasn't even eating clean back then. So, if I were to try and bulk up to 230, 240, whatever I was trying to do, and I was doing it when I was trying to eat clean, well, that just wasn't going to happen for me, at least not at that time. Now, over the years, I was able to bulk up to higher and higher weights. So the end of my first dirty bulk, when I went on that quest, I went from about 220 to about 240. And yeah, a lot of that was fat. I did gain some muscle, but a lot of that was fat. I cut down. I didn't really want to get fat for a while there, and I kind of stalled my progress. I started eating again and, trying to bulk again and stuff like that. And again, I fell into that same trap. I really struggled to gain weight past a certain point. Then I started adding some food that was, a little bit more unclean. And then I was able to get back up to 240 again. And so I was like, I did this before. I was able to get to 240. I did it again. And then I cut back down. Then the next time I dirty bulked, I got up to 260. Actually a little bit over 260. And so for me now, cutting back down, I cut back down to 240, which I probably should have cut further than that because I didn't get quite as lean as I probably should have. But for me at that point, I knew, man, I can get back to 260 easily. And so by the end of that next dirty bulk that I did, which started out as being actually kind of a clean bulk, I was able to get the highest weight that I'd ever achieved is 278 pounds, which is what I achieved on the very peak of my last bulk. And so at that point, I know that I can bulk, far in excess of what I probably should be, because I probably should never get back up to 278. I probably overdid it there, right? But I know that if I were to say, hey, I want to lean bulk all the way up to 260 maybe, or even, 250, because currently right now I'm just a little bit above 230 because I've really dieted down quite a bit. And so for me to get back up to 250 or 260, I'm like, wow, I think I can actually do that while lean bulking. Whereas before I never was even able to get to 230 lean bulking, let alone 250 or 260, right? And so I think the idea of dirty bulking is you reinforce those habits of waking up in the morning. First thing you do, you eat food. Then you wait a little bit, and when you're hungry again, you eat again. And you reinforce those habits. And you do that, again, when you are eating in a little bit more of an environment where you're, eating food that isn't necessarily clean, right? And so as you further reinforce those habits and you prove to yourself that you're able to get up to those weights, and in the process of doing that, you're putting on muscle, right? Then when you cut down, you're like, oh, well, I've already bulked up to that weight again. I feel like I could do that because you have that history of not only being able to eat the food, reinforcing that pattern that you need to be eating. For me, a very common thing that I used to do, which I don't really do anymore, is I used to not really be able to eat in the morning. And over the years, I reinforced that habit of constantly eating as soon as I wake up. And now, even when I'm cutting, I feel like even if I go like an hour or two without eating in the morning, I struggle very much to do that. And so for me, I've reinforced that pattern, which is probably beneficial for somebody of my size. And, that was definitely reinforced with dirty bulking. And so as you replace more of that unhealthy food with, healthier food, and as in that process, you're gaining muscle mass, you reinforce that idea of eating, and you reinforce to yourself that you have the ability to gain that weight. And so you're confident that you can do it again. And you're saying, okay, if I could do it last time eating, all this junk food, this time I can do it and I can be a little bit more clean about it. And I feel like this most recent bulk that I did, the first half of my bulk, I got up to 260 eating very clean. And once I got past 260, because I had never been past 260 at that point, everything above 260 was very hard to put that extra weight on. And at that point, yes, I did resort to dirty bulking habits. And that was probably very unhealthy at that body weight. But I knew that I could get to 260, and I knew that I could do it a little bit cleaner this time, and I did. And so next time when I bulk up, I know that I can probably get up to 260, maybe even 270, and do it in a clean fashion. And so I'm not saying that I'm planning to bulk up and get to that level, but the point is that as we, reinforce that idea of constantly eating more food, as we build that confidence in ourselves that we're able to gain weight as somebody like myself or somebody else who struggled to gain weight, once we learn that we can do it, once we've already done it multiple times, hopefully multiple years in a row, it's like, I've gotten to this body weight every bulk for the last 3 years. Well, you have a lot of confidence that you can do it again, right? And so especially as you're building muscle in that process, your set point's going to constantly be increasing. And so if last time you struggled to get to 250, maybe this time 250 is going to be easy and 260 is going to be hard. And that's just going to keep evolving. And again, you have to constantly reinforce that habit of eating more food, because as you're gaining more muscle mass, your body's going to demand more and more food over time. And so if you're not reinforcing that habit, and if you're doing it in a way where you're more metabolically active with that muscle tissue on your body, well, you're just fighting an uphill battle. If you can't even bulk in the first place, how are you ever going to get in a situation where you have that confidence where you can do that in a clean fashion, right? So that's really kind of my take on dirty bulking and how it's been beneficial to me. And now I'm at the point in my life where I am confident that I probably never really need to get above like 260. And I'm also confident that I can clean bulk my way to 260. And now that I'm at this point in my life for the first time, I'm actually going to attempt to do a clean bulk. And so I think this should be pretty exciting. Having my nutrients and everything that I'm getting from my food when I'm actually eating clean versus eating a whole bunch of BS. I'm very excited to see what that does for my physique. So, kind of the long, route of taking it, but as somebody who has struggled to gain weight in my life, I think that is something that I probably needed to go through to be able to get to the point where I could eat enough food to sustain that weight. Okay, so hopefully that's beneficial. Again, this is not advocating for dirty bulking, but it's just the reality of the situation for a lot of us who struggle to eat enough food. And ultimately, I do think that eating healthier, and this is something that I've been doing, eating healthier is much better for your overall life. It's better for bodybuilding, it's better for your mental health, it's better for your physical health and everything. And I just think obviously that's what you should strive for, but we're not going to get perfect overnight. We're not going to be able to have all this muscle mass and bulk up to a certain weight and be able to eat clean and just do that. So I think over time we should adapt and reinforce those habits and then get to the point where we can do that at a heavier weight when we're satisfied with our physique and what we can do. So hopefully that can help and kind of change the perspective on dirty bulking and how it kind of has a role. And anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I will keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.